I want to help you think a little bit differently about your dental practice today. To do that, I want to ask a question. Are you building revenue or are you building equity? Now, most of the time when I talk to dentists and we talk about their practice and they talk about needs that they have, one of the things that they always talk about is they want to grow the revenue, right? And ultimately grow the profit, for themselves. And so they're revenue focused. I call that they're income focused. They're trying to build a good income. But the conversation that I hardly ever have is them calling and saying, hey, how can I increase the value of my practice? See, they view their practice as a source of income or a job. And then their financial advisor says, great, grow that revenue, and then let's siphon off money from that revenue over into outside investments. Instead, what I want you to think about is, I want you to think about that practice as an asset. And how do we grow that asset value? I was talking to a dentist this week who's been a client of ours. He has grown his practice, exponentially over the past 3-4 years. And he is so excited. I was checking in about his year this year. And he said, I'm really excited. We've added staff. We've expanded our office. And we have really changed the way the practice operates. And one of the things he said to me was, he said, I'm so excited because I realized that I am not the majority producer now. In fact, I'm only responsible for a small amount of revenue to our practice. So if I got my arm chopped off tomorrow and couldn't come in to work next year, we would probably still grow at 20% growth next year because he's added associate, those kinds of things. Now, he was concerned because he's noticed that his profit, meaning his compensation for being the owner, is not growing along with that top line net production. So there's some issues there that we need to look at. He needs to look at, and we need to talk through. But what I want him to also understand is by shifting the way that practice runs from being a owner-doctor dependent practice to a practice that produces revenue, whether the owner-doctor is there or not, what he's done is he's increased the asset value. Because through the lens of an investor, that investor will pay more money for a practice that's not dependent upon the owner-doctor. It's more of a cash flow purchase, future revenue purchase, rather than an asset purchase. So he's increased the value of his practice. Now, he doesn't necessarily see that because he's not looking at that. But one of the things that I want to do with him is to say, hey, listen, when you're looking at your financial plan and you're looking at your financial investments and you sit down with your financial advisor, you pull out your statement, you compare the number on the statement, the balance, the value of your assets to last year's value. And if it's up, you're like, oh, great, you've done a great job for me. That's fantastic. I feel good. What do we need to do to keep this trajectory going? If the balances are down, the values are down, then, you say, oh gosh, what happened? Could we avoid it? How do we change it? How do we turn it around? Do we need to do anything differently? But what he's not getting is he's not getting statements on the balance or the value of his practice. But the truth is the value of that practice has gone up. So he has built that asset. Now, we got to get the profit up because certainly profit needs to follow growth. But growing the asset value is just as important. As I like to teach, I like to coach on this idea that growing that practice value is an intricate part of an exit strategy or retirement plan. So we have to implement all of the principles that we can to grow the practice value. Now, what's interesting is those principles that we need to implement to grow that practice value also ultimately, if the doctor wants, gets the doctor out of the chair and out of the necessity of doing dentistry, gets them to a place where doing the dentistry becomes optional because that's a much more valuable practice. So when you're thinking about decisions, when you're evaluating your year here at the end of the year, think about, hey, am I just building revenue or did I also build equity in this business as well?